In this video, I will be discussing the buyer consultation that I live and die by, and it is a lot different than most anyone else's buyer consultations that I've come across, and I've spoken to a lot of realtors about how they kind of handle it, and it is way different than mine. So happy to share. And if if you're someone who I had a buyer consultation with prior to 2024, then you may be thinking like, whoa, this was different. So it is. I'm recording this in January of 2025. I now have a good year under my belt of doing this consultation specifically. It used to be way different. And such a good year it was, because now I feel more in control of my career. So buyer consultations, first off, the very first thing that I need from a buyer consultation is the buyer is scheduling. I don't know why it's underlined. Buyer schedules in my calendar. Okay? It sounds like it's not that important, but it is. Buyer schedules consultation in my calendar. I send my calendar to the buyer, and they decide time to decide when it's best for them. I don't say I'm flexible. I don't say, oh, yeah, whatever works for you, I'll drop what I'm doing. That is going to give them the wrong impression of what I'm here for. I am the professional. I am here for guidance. I don't only work with you, buyer. I work with many people because I am a professional, and therefore here are the times I can speak. The other important part is it must be a Google Meet. In person, I'm not going to rule out like coffee I've done before, so I'm not saying that this is better than in person, but what I do want to make a point of is a phone call is insufficient. Phone calls can happen throughout the process, don't get me wrong, but if we are having a buyer consultation, I am sitting in front of my microphone here talking to you while we see each other. Very, very different settings. You are not going to get sidetracked by a text on a phone call. When I'm on the phone call, I'm on the treadmill a lot, not when I'm on Google Meet. Very different. And you might be thinking like, okay, these are two, things that have nothing to do with the buyer consultation. And yeah, I know that, but this sets the precedent. Next part about my buyer consultation is it used to be me explaining the buying process to the buyer. And damn it, did I waste time and energy and business and money doing that. The buyer doesn't care about what might happen in an inspection or an appraisal or during title or attorney review. They don't care about that when they're first talking about seeing homes. What they want to know and make sure of with their realtor who they're trusting is that they are heard. They are seen and understood. So the next part I will write is ask a million questions. God, I'm just getting pissed at myself writing this because in the past, I used to literally have Google buyer consultation, or on EXP, my brokerage, the workplace. Here's a buyer consultation. I used to be with Keller Williams. They had buyer consultations, and you just take it and you share your screen, and that's how it would be. God, that is the worst thing to do. No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. Ask a million questions about why they want to buy a house, where they want to look, what makes sense for them, the timing, do you lease or do you own now? What's your plan to move? How questions that you would want to be asked if you were telling your family that you're moving somewhere, right? Okay. Next is be realistic. Let me write this down. Here's what I mean. The easiest time to have a hard conversation with potential clients is the first conversation. Every time you don't tell them something that they should know, it gets harder and harder to tell them later. Now is the time to make sure their expectations are realistic. If they're telling you things that with your experience is not the case, for example, they want a condo. Now that's a terrible example. They want a 4-bedroom house and their budget's only $400K. Tell them now. Share your screen with the MLS or Zillow or whatever. Show them with facts about how to be realistic. They are going to appreciate it. If they don't appreciate it, then you don't want to work with them. It is way harder. I used to tell myself, oh, you know what? The first priority I'm going to do is get them to a house, get in front of them, open the door for them, and I'll be their realtor, and then we'll go from there. But what would happen? If you're an experienced agent, you know what I'm talking. You definitely know what I'm talking about. What would happen? Then we would get into the process of looking at homes. They would just send me a million homes. I would feel that I need to do that, what I did the first time, every time, because I did not set boundaries or an expectation that was realistic. And we would then, have a back and forth, and eventually you're making $14 an hour if this ever closes. I'm done with that life. So I'm telling you, be realistic and give them the proper expectations now versus later. And fifth and finally, this is my favorite one to say. I love this line, and I'm saying technology. Here's what I mean. Technology is our best friend. You are making the biggest investment of your life, assuming you're like a first-time home buyer, right? Why would we not use technology to our advantage? So when you work with me, Mr. Buyer, we don't just see any little house that you feel like seeing because you're bored on a Saturday. In order for us, Mr. Buyer, to get in our cars and to invest time into this process, we need to have analyzed it using technology first. That means it's 2025. We have Google Images, Google Earth, Google Maps, okay? I have access as a realtor to the seller's disclosure. I can call the listing agent and find out questions. Maybe there's lead-based paint. Things we can Google the tax records, look at the tax maps if it's a weird property. These are things that we are going to use to our advantage immediately. We are not going to see the property first and then figure out what we care about. What will happen, Mr. Buyer, if we go and see every property that we sort of want to see is that you are going to get fatigued. You are taking time out of your busy schedule after work to see properties with me, to drive in traffic a half hour, get home for a late dinner. This is important. We don't want to be wasting our time. This is an investment of time, and you have to trust me that we are going to use technology to our advantage. So when we see a property in person, we are already confirming something we already know or discovering something for the first time that will make us want out. Okay, when I say that, what do you think the buyer's response always is? I've done this like probably 15 times at this time of the recording. So maybe not the craziest sample size, but all 15 times the buyer says, "Oh, thank you." How crazy is that? I used to think that when a buyer calls me, I need to drop what I'm doing and see what they want to do and do it their way. And that is what a door opener, waiter, server does, not a really awesome realtor. Since I've adapted this mindset, my buyers are happier, I'm happier, and most importantly, we're most effective. It's really a great strategy. And I'm not saying we're only seeing properties that we must offer on if we go see a property. I never said that, and I'm not expecting the first house we see to put in a winning offer. But I am expecting to have purpose behind what we're doing. We're not just going through the motions, because we're both going to hate this if we do that. And then lastly, I'm not going to write this because this is for the initial buyer's consultation only. However, what I do like to do with my buyers is have a 3-week recap and sort of a review. So as soon as we hang up on this call, as soon as we hang up on our first call, I'll schedule a Google Meet for 3 weeks later with them to review how the last 3 weeks went. And to, just like we would if we were like a football coach, like let's look at film, right? Let's scout for the next one. So we do that to see if we're still a good fit for each other, because there's nothing worse than finding out you're not a good fit for each other when it's way too late and maybe even after closing. So thank you for coming to my buyer consultation. I hope you can take some parts of this and run away with it. Just let me know, because this is free. So I want to know if I helped you. Thank you.